If you ever hear knocking on your door at 3 a.m. in a foreign place, don't open it, especially not in Chiang Mai. That was the warning John had come across in a travel group on Reddit. Beneath the post were hundreds of comments, most of them dismissing it as a creepypasta-style joke. John thought the same. He laughed, scrolled past it, and didn't give it a second thought. At the time, he had never set foot in Thailand. But a few weeks later, there he was, standing in the heart of Chiang Mai, breathing in the cool night air, laced with the scent of orchids and incense drifting from ancient temples. He was the backpacker type. A rucksack, a camera, and a habit of never booking ahead. After a long day wandering through the old quarter, John came across a small hotel tucked away in an alley behind the night market. A faded wooden sign hung above the entrance, reading, Lana Lotus Guest House. Behind the front desk sat an old woman whose eyes never left the black and white TV playing an old Thai movie. "Do you have any rooms?" John asked, wiping sweat from his brow. The woman didn't speak. She simply reached for a key dangling from a wall hook. A brass tag read, "Room 409, 3rd floor. End of the hallway," she said in a hoarse whisper. Wooden stairs groaned under his weight as he climbed. The hotel was eerily quiet, almost too quiet. The 3rd floor hallway was dim, and the flickering overhead light barely pierced the darkness stretching to either end. Room 409 was at the far end. A red-painted wooden door, the paint cracked and peeling. The doorknob was ice cold. He stepped inside. The room was plain, nothing scary. A bed, a wooden wardrobe, and a large mirror mounted on the wall opposite the bed. John opened the window, took a deep breath, and exhaled slowly. This trip was his escape from the noise back home, from deadlines and drama. A few weeks off the grid, no social media, no stress. He took out his laptop, made a few notes about the day, then turned off the lights. It was 10:42 p.m., and he didn't yet know that room 409, the one he was lying in, didn't exist on the hotel's official floor plan. Asterisk. The first sign that something was wrong came in the middle of the night. John wasn't sure what had woken him. Maybe it was the cold, or the unfamiliar creaking of the old wooden walls. But when he opened his eyes, he immediately noticed something strange. The mirror on the wall was fogged up, as if someone had breathed on it. He hadn't taken a shower. The windows were open. There was no reason for condensation. He sat up slowly. The room was dim. The weak yellow glow of a nearby street lamp spilled in through the window, casting strange shadows on the ceiling. He squinted at the mirror. Again, something moved. In the reflection, John turned around. Nothing. The room behind him was empty. Just the bed, the wardrobe, and that damn mirror. Probably just dreaming, he mumbled. But just as he lay back down, he heard it. A whisper. So faint, it barely reached his ears. "Don't open it. He sat up instantly, heart pounding. "Hello?" he called out, his voice cracking slightly. No answer. Just silence, and the creaking of old wooden beams above him. Trying to brush it off as leftover dream residue, he grabbed a bottle of water from his bag and sat on the bed for a while, waiting for his heart rate to calm down. But then, at exactly 3 a.m., there was a knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Not loud, but enough to chill his blood. He froze. Every instinct screamed not to move. A full minute passed. Then another set of knocks. Knock. 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 John swallowed hard and approached the door, pressing his eye against the P-E-E-P-H-O-L-E. No one. Just the dimly lit hallway, stretching in both directions. Empty. He hesitated. Then, slowly, his hand reached for the doorknob. Don't open it. The voice from earlier echoed in his head. Not his own thought, but something foreign. It was urgent, desperate. He stopped, stepped back. He locked the door, pulled a chair in front of it, turned every light in the room on, and stayed awake until the sun rose. By morning, it all felt ridiculous. Lack of sleep, jet lag, maybe too much. Local beer from the night before. Yeah, that must be it. John gathered his things and went downstairs to the lobby. The old woman was gone. In her place was a young receptionist, maybe in her 20s, typing lazily on a small laptop. Hey, John said, forcing a smile. Strange question. Do you know if there's any history about room 409? The receptionist frowned, then turned slightly pale. Room 409? Yeah, the one I'm in. That room is supposed to be locked. We haven't rented it in years. John's smile disappeared, but I just stayed there. The older lady, she gave me the key. Older lady? The girl leaned forward. There's no one like that working here. Just me and my brother. We've been on shift all week. John stared at her, heart thudding. No, I talked to her last night. She gave me this. He pulled out the brass key with the faded number, 409. The receptionist shook her head. Sir, room 409 was sealed off after something happened. A foreigner, 2 years ago. He jumped from the balcony. They say he saw something in the mirror. We never reopened the room. John looked up toward the staircase. But I was in that room last night, I swear. Then show me, she said, voice now trembling. Together, they climbed to the 3rd floor. The hallway looked the same, dusty, dim, eerie. But when they reached the end of the hallway, there was no room 409, not only a blank wooden wall. John froze. His key slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. John didn't say a word. The hallway had ended in a solid wall, where room 409 should have been. No door, no frame, just warped wooden planks and cobwebs hanging like forgotten memories. The young receptionist backed away slowly, clearly shaken. I told you, she whispered. That room isn't real anymore. No, John muttered, staring at the wall. I was in there. I unpacked. I slept. I saw the mirror. He stopped himself. He didn't mention the voice, or the knocking, or the whisper that sounded like it came from inside his own mind. Can I see the guest log? He asked, suddenly. The one from yesterday? She nodded hesitantly, and led him back downstairs. Behind the desk was an old ledger, yellowed with time. John flipped through the pages, stopping at the one labeled with yesterday's date. No entry under his name. No room 409. No initials. No record. Like he'd never arrived at all. What the hell is going on? He muttered. The receptionist looked at him with something between pity and fear. You should leave, sir. He didn't argue, but something held him in Chiang Mai. He booked a room at another guest house across town, but his thoughts kept circling back to the mirror, to the voice. And that knock, that damn knock. That night, he couldn't sleep, so he did something stupid. He took out his phone, opened Google Maps, and zoomed in on the location of the first hotel. It was still marked Lana Lotus Guest House, but the reviews, there were only 2, both left years ago. Strange place. Old lady barely spoke. Room was cold and smelled like flowers. Avoid room 409. Stayed one night. Never again. Heard knocking at 3 a.m. No one there. Room didn't exist when I came back the next day. John's fingers trembled. Flowers, he muttered. Yes. Now he remembered. That faint, floral scent in the room. Subtle, not unpleasant, but unnatural. Like incense burning in a closed casket. He stood and went to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. And then he saw her in the mirror behind him. A woman in white pale, impossibly still, standing directly behind him. Her eyes were hollow, black holes leaking something darker than shadow. Her long black hair clung to her face like damp seaweed. He spun around, no one, just the bathroom, just himself. But when he looked back into the mirror, she was still there. He staggered backward, knocking over a towel rack. The mirror cracked, a thin, jagged line running down the center. The woman vanished. John didn't sleep that night. He sat on the bed, all the lights on, clutching the old brass key in his hand like a talisman. Where had he gotten it? It wasn't in his pocket earlier, but now it was back, heavy, cold, etched with 409 at exactly 3 a.m. He heard it again. This time, not at the door, but from the mirror. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps. From the inside, John stared at his reflection. But now the mirror didn't reflect him, It reflected a hallway. A familiar hallway. The 3rd floor of Lana Lotus. And at the far end, under flickering lights, room 409. John couldn't explain how the mirror showed a place he wasn't standing in. He waved his hand in front of it. His reflection returned, then gone again, back and forth, flickering like a glitch in reality. The hallway in the mirror was unmistakable. It was that hallway, warped wooden floorboards, the buzzing light overhead, and the faint red glow spilling from underneath room 409's door. He should have run, should have burned the key and gotten on the first flight out of Thailand. But instead, he got dressed, shoved the key into his pocket, and walked out into the night. It was nearly 2 a.m. when he reached Lana Lotus Guest House. The building looked abandoned now. Dust on the windows, no lights, no TV sounds. The main door was ajar. He stepped inside, the familiar scent of jasmine and mildew hitting him like a memory. The lobby was empty, the desk unattended. No receptionist, no signs of life. The place felt frozen in time. The stairs creaked as he ascended, each step heavier than the last, as if something was trying to pull him back. At the 3rd floor landing, he paused. He reached the end of the hallway, and there it was, room 409. This time, the door existed, clear as day, slightly open. A red silk ribbon tied to the handle, fluttering gently. Even though there was no wind, John gripped the brass key tightly. "You wanted me here," he muttered. "I'm here." He pushed the door open, The room looked exactly as he remembered. Bed, wardrobe, mirror, everything in its place, but colder. Like walking into a tomb. John stepped inside, letting the door swing shut behind him. As soon as it clicked closed, the mirror flickered, and she appeared again, standing behind him. UNMOVING. Only this time, she stepped forward, right through. The mirror. John backed away, but his feet wouldn't move. It was like the floor had turned to tar. His breath fogged in the freezing air. She reached for him, a pale, translucent hand, her fingers blackened at the tips, nails sharp like glass shards. "Why?" John gasped. "What do you want?" Her mouth opened, too wide, too wrong, and in a voice that sounded like 1,000 whispers layered atop each other, she answered, "You opened the door." Suddenly, the mirror behind her began to glow, its surface rippling like water. John felt himself being pulled toward it. Images flashed in the glass. A man screaming in the room, slamming the door shut, scratching symbols into the floor with his nails. A woman crying, backed into a corner, holding the same brass key. A foreigner standing on the balcony, stepping off, falling. "We showed them," the whisper said. "We warned them, but they all opened the door." John struggled, heart racing. "I didn't mean to." The woman leaned in close. "But now, you're part of the room." She smiled, a cracked, unnatural smile, and with a gust of ice-cold wind, the lights went out. The mirror shattered. And the room went completely dark. Morning. A maid from the guest house next door called the police. She'd seen the front door of Lana Lotus ajar. She'd heard knocking during the night. Inside, the building was empty, dust-covered, silent. No room 409. Just a wall. No John. No key. No guest log. But in the broken shards of a mirror left in an old hallway closet. If you looked closely, you could see a reflection that didn't match the room. A man, standing frozen in terror. Still holding a brass key, marked 409. 2 weeks later. Back in the US, a travel vlogger named Mason was editing his footage from Southeast Asia. While scrolling through Google Maps, he noticed something strange. A saved pin on his map labeled Room 409 Do Not Return. But he hadn't pinned it. Curious, he clicked it. It led to a half-faded listing for an abandoned guest house in Chiang Mai, Lana Lotus. The reviews were gone, the photos removed, but the pin was real, and strangely, it had coordinates locked in. He checked his footage from Chiang Mai. Nothing. He didn't remember visiting the place, but that night, Mason had a dream. A hallway, flickering lights, a door at the end, room 409, and behind it, knocking. He woke up sweating. His laptop screen was still on. A single line typed into his notes app. He didn't remember writing it. Don't open it unless it knocks 3 times. Meanwhile, back in Chiang Mai, locals avoided the alley where Lana Lotus once stood. They whispered that the building was gone now, demolished. But sometimes, at exactly 3 a.m., travelers walking nearby reported hearing knocking. 3 soft, rhythmic taps, coming from nowhere. And sometimes, from the mirror in their own rooms, the legend lives on. Room 409 never stays sealed for long. It opens when someone is curious enough to look, to listen, to follow a voice in the dark. And now that you've heard the story, If you ever check into a hotel in Chiang Mai and you find an old brass key left on your nightstand, ask yourself, is this my room or theirs? And if you hear knocking at 3 a.m., don't open it. Not unless you're ready to disappear. If this story gave you chills, make sure to subscribe to Trail Tales, where legends roam and the shadows tell the truth. Don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Stay curious, stay cautious, and never open the wrong door.